Thank you.
All
I
right.
shouldn't
Color up
You
a
ready?
line or something?
No, I'm not gonna say it out loud. Please.
Well, I like
You
it.
just said it looks like more like a kimono, I
Hey,
think.
how are you?
She. She.
Good.
Mhm.
So, you gonna share some today?
I will share whatever you'd like me to share.
Okay.
I'm not sure if I have a lot to share, but I
What's
will,
your-
I will have a story. How's that?
That's perfect.
A story is always perfect.
What's your timeline look like?
I have another meeting at 11 in here in the office.
Whatever you're doing this morning. So this thing's from 10 to 12. What does it look like for you during that time? You have a meeting with Scott at 11.
At 11, so
Okay.
I'm free between now and then,
So let me
except for
just-
maybe just like a minute or two before, just so that I can run out.
So let me just introduce it and then we'll let you talk some. What story do you want to tell about open houses or real estate? Or that's the thing.
I have not had a lot of experience in open houses, but the one or two experiences that I have are probably teachable bones.
Okay. So we'll get you early on worked into it and go from there. That'll be- Yep. Perfect. You're welcome.
I've had 2 open house experiences, Todd.
Did you?
One with my listing, which was fine, and then another, I was this past Saturday covering for Carol Woodyard, who was covering for the Clark team, doing it for them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, just because the house was,
amazing.
no,
What price point was it?
it's $275 in Durham.
Okay.
So dirty.
Oh,
I mean, everyone who walked
Yeah.
in noticed. It was
Yeah.
like, oh my goodness. So I sort of
probably
made a
sold
rule for
within
myself.
3 hours, I'm sure.
Yeah,
So,
I'm sure. Mhm. But the thing about it was, the reason that we do it is hopefully that we'll have some leads come from it. But of the 25 that came through, 17 were agents with their clients, and the remaining only 2 were not represented by clients already.
okay. So that's a little different.
Would you say that's atypical?
Yeah, the national average is 1 out of every 2 people that comes to an open house is unsigned and will transact within 12 months.
Oh, that's
So
a great
it's a
thing to
great
know.
lead source. Yeah.
Maybe I just had an off thing.
Yeah, or maybe there's more agents coming with their buyers to open houses, but it's a little odd to have agents come with buyers to open houses, in my opinion.
A lot of
So
them, yeah.
if my folks are going to an open house, I just tell them to have a good time and tell them they got an agent. and
Well, I
let
think
me know
one
if they
thing
want
that could have affected that is that when it's open on showing time, so all these agents booked it. And if it wasn't that way, I don't think the agents would have come with them.
Probably the case, yeah. They were probably in the midst of showings, just made it a part of their day.
Yeah.
Well, let's see if we can get rolling here.
But Tammy, really, I do see your name on there. I'm like, she's just so active. I worked a little bit with Jamie Emmett at the beginning.
Okay.
So I know she started about the same time.
Yeah, we'll
as you,
talk
but
about
you're
it
just
later.
like, woo.
Oh,
She was
Is that
sharing
funny?
for like 20 years.
Hey, what's your name?
My name's Dave.
Dave, I'm Todd. Good to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you,
Yeah.
Todd. Seen you around
I
once or
think
twice.
that's you should teach is like.
Yeah, thanks for saying hi again. So how long you been with KW?
Not very long.
Okay,
Few months, but I feel like I'm starting all over again, so.
feels like old home, huh? Where were you before?
I'm new to real estate.
Oh, new to real estate. Okay, well, welcome. We're
I
glad
was
you're here,
in- I
Dave.
was in sales for 20+ years, so.
Sales, yeah. What kind, what'd you sell?
Advertising solutions.
Okay.
Small and medium businesses.
Okay. Yeah, sales is the same. It's the same, whatever you're slinging, it's the same. So,
I do look forward to this class.
oh, good. Well, we're glad you're here today.
Good to see you in person. Hi.
I see you're rocking.
Remind me your name again.
Hmm.
Jennifer?
Jennifer, that's right. So, welcome.
Jennifer is one of my buyers.
Oh, really? She's a crackerjack, so you did good. So, yeah, that's good stuff. How did you meet Tammy?
Jeremy introduced me.
Excellent. So,
Yeah.
good stuff.
And Jennifer's our interim productivity coach.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, very good. Wow, you got many hats. That's good
Yes.
stuff.
she got us in today. Mhm.
Hey, everyone online. So if you can, unmute yourself so you can speak into it with us and just feel welcome to talk and interact with us. And I promise that I will attempt to stay connected with you as well. Anybody have a question on there?
Oh, it's the church.
Okay. So today we're going to talk a little bit about open houses, and I'd really like to start with, what do you want to get out of a workshop about open houses?
The proper way to conduct an open house.
So some of the how-to. Is that fair? Yeah.
I'd like
Anything
to,
else?
Preparing prior to and follow up afterwards.
So prep and follow up. So we've got prep, how to, which is the active, and then follow up, which is the following. I'm going to try to bump on here. Can you hear me?
yes.
Thank
Yes.
you, Sanika. Thanks, Michelle. Anything you'd like to get out of the open house workshop?
You mentioned the prep. That was going to be my thing.
Prep.
Just like how to, I guess, prepare to start an open house, because you only have a few days window sometime to invite people. So that just the process of making sure you are prepared to do, I guess, the open house.
Okay, so how to prepare for an open house was your question as well.
Yeah.
Michelle, Maricela, anything you want to add to that?
I don't have anything in particular. I just, anything that I can pick up and add, or that I can share with new agents that I come in contact with, I think that's a big benefit.
Okay, cool. So anything you can share with new agents you come in contact with?
I don't have any questions at this time. I'm a new agent as well, so I'm just here to learn.
Okay, well, that's fine. Be here. We'll all learn together. It's going to be a good time. Let me ask you this. We were just talking a little bit about this. Who's done an open house before? Jennifer, you've done one. Tammy's done one. Anybody online done one?
Several.
Several. Okay, perfect. So I'd like to start by just thinking about, why do we do open houses? And what's the whole point of that? And really the point of an open house is to get a listing. The point of an open house is to get a listing. So I think it's always important to start with why. And why we do open houses is to get a listing, okay? So people think, oh, an open house is to sell my home. How many homes, or what percent of homes get sold through open houses?
Is it
It's-
less than 25?
It's less than 1% nationally, less than 1%. Yeah. So less than 1% of homes are going to be sold through an open house. So an open house is a marvelous way to lead generate. And you can lead generate for two groups of people. Welcome, Will. You can lead generate for two groups of people. You can lead generate for listings, or you can lead generate for buyers. And both that transact are good for business. But what we want to do is we want to lead generate for listings, right? That's first importance. Second importance is to lead generate for buyers. Juliet and I were talking about this a little bit right as we got started. What is the national average percentage of people that come through an open house that are unsigned?
50%.
Slightly more than 50%. And so unsigned and will transact within 12 months is 50% of people that come through an open house. So if you can host an open house and you can get 4 buyers to come through it, 2 are signed and won't transact with you, but 2 are unsigned and will transact within 12 months. So if you can do 1 open house a week and you can add 2 people to your Sphere database per open house. At the end of the year, you should have about 96 people. If you take 4 weeks off and you do 48 a year, you should have 96 people in your database that are going to be unsigned and transact within 12 months. Okay. So that's why it's important to do open houses. But we have two strategic things. We want to acquire listings and we want to acquire buyers with open houses. So we're going to talk about how to go about that process. And we're going to cover this. So why do an open house? To get
A listing.
to get a listing. And to secondly, get a buyer. And we're going to talk about that. I got a couple stories. So let me tell you a little bit about David and Amy. All right. So I hosted an open house on one of my listings. It was in Apex. It was in the 5s. And I hosted an open house and I had all my signs out and I advertised it online and I talked with people about it and I door knocked the neighborhood, this, that, and the other. And we had lots of people come through that open house. There was multiple open houses in the neighborhood that weekend. That was good for everybody's traffic. But David and Amy, I met them and they got out and they came through and they had 7 kids. I mean, it was just like the stair steps, ding, 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 right now. And they had grandma with them and she was walking around and it was a good time. And we had a great time talking. And I met David and Amy, that was in August. And they were looking for a house for their family, multi-generational family. And the house that I was showing them that weekend wasn't the right house. But they did transact with me it was almost a year later because it was a hurricane. So it was maybe like 13 months later. They transacted in September. I met them in August. They transacted with me the following September. And all I did was meet them at the open house. I stayed in touch with them. I called them about every 4 to 6 weeks. I sent them listings and they were early in the process. And so they didn't have an agent and they didn't know what they wanted. And they had 2 homes in the mountains that they had to sell to generate the down payment that they needed to get a house for their family. And so those 2 homes in the mountains sold. It was the mother's property, and then they sold over time, and we got them transacted the next year. So it kind of worked out. And I asked them at the end of it, I said, so, why did you use me as your agent in this process? And they said, well, out of all the agents we met, you seem to care about us and our situation, our 7 kids and his mother. And you seem to care about helping us find that kind of early on. And so I just find that in sales, it's all about people. And so it's always all about people. And so whatever we're selling, Dave, we're really helping people get what they want, right? Doesn't matter what you sell. Sales is really about people. So make your open houses about people. I'm going to pause and ask, anybody online have any thinking for us within that? All right. I'm just going to shut this for a quick second. So that's the big idea. Open houses, why do we do them and what happens out of them? So we tend to see 2 groups of people that we want to meet within it. And when we get to thinking about, the job of the open house is to sell the listing, that may happen, but it's fairly rare, right? Anybody ever hosted an open house and sold it? I haven't. Tammy, ever done that?
No.
Never? Okay. Easy. Now, I'm going to tell you another story. Come on in. I'm going to tell you another story about why we do open houses. So this was kind of early on. Somebody had referred a listing to me, and I took the listing just to get the experience. There was a referral fee. It was a low commission. I mean, this house needed work. It didn't stink, but kinda. And I did this open house, and it was in Garner, and there was an agent that, she wasn't an agent yet, but she was in class, but she couldn't get licensed before her mom needed to transact, and she couldn't get a referral fee. So she said, hey, could you help my mom on her purchase and teach me something about real estate in the meantime? I said, okay, let's do an open house together. And then I'll come and teach you how to do it. And then you go do it. You'll do the next weekend open house, and we'll kind of learn about it. So at that open house, I met Justin and Wendy, and Justin and Wendy came through our open house. There was only a few people that came through it. Again, this was in August. So apparently I like to do open houses in August. That's a great month. What month is this?
Back to school.
Last day of
Back to
June.
school, last day of June. So August is coming up. That's my point. So maybe you can get an open house before August. Anyway, at this open house I did in Garner, Justin and Wendy came through, and they were just running through this house. And I was like, what in the world, you know? And so I'm trying to keep up with them and talk to them. And they're like, it's a good house, but I don't know if we're going to do it. And finally, I stayed with them and just kept engaging, talking to them about what they needed, this, that, and the other. And he sat down in the family room and we talked. And I said, what do you need to do? And he said, well, we got a house. It's on 6.5 acres. We need to sell that before we purchase. And we talked about why they wanted to do it. We talked, I went over to their house. I did a listing presentation. I talked about what I would sell them for and how I would help them buy. And we followed up, and then it was just crickets. Like I couldn't get them on the phone, nothing. February, I was coming back from family reunion, and literally I was, I can't remember where we were, but we were on the tarmac, and I answered my phone, getting ready to take off, and it was Wendy. And she said, we want you to come list our house and help us buy. And I said, sounds good. When do you want me to come over? She said, how about tomorrow night? I said, I'm on my way. In fact, I'm flying into town especially for it. So we did that. And I went over there and I listed their house. I said, Wendy, we talked 6 months ago. Why did you use me as your agent? And she said, you were honest and you were real with us, and we felt like we could work with you. So I said, okay, that seems good to me. So anybody ever pick up a listing out of an open house before? Yes. Tell us about that, Jennifer. How'd that happen?
I was holding an open house for another agent, and they actually came through and they were working with a builder, Lennar. And so I just gave them my information, and then they called me a few weeks later and said that did not work out. They didn't have great communication and they were ready to look elsewhere. So we started looking elsewhere, and they had their house list as well.
There you go.
Mhm.
Fantastic. So show up and be helpful,
Mhm.
and sometimes things come back to you, right?
Yes.
That's great. Fantastic.
And I asked them too, why did you call me out of everybody that you had seen? And it was because of the conversation that we had had in the house, and I wasn't pushy, I was just helpful.
Yeah. So people need information before they need transaction, right?
Right.
So they need information first, and then they need to understand the process, and then they need help with the transaction. So it's a big ramp up onboarding process to sell and buy a home. And so I just encourage you to think about, there's a lot goes into it with people. And I'm sorry, I haven't met you before. Would you introduce yourself?
Donna.
Donna, it's a pleasure to meet you. Welcome. Glad you're here today. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Anyone online have something to contribute to the conversation there? Okay. So I think this is the main reasons why we do an open house. It's for a listing, it's to get a buyer. So we want to use open houses as a lead generation source. Now there's 19 different lead generation sources, right? If you're new, open house is one of the most effective ways to get a transaction going quickly. And you can go into town and quickly lead generate. And if you're better in person than on the phones, I think open houses is a prime way to do that. Now, some of us are buyer's agents. Jennifer, you're buyer agent on a team now, right? Fantastic. So buyer agent on a team hosting an open house, generating more listings for the team. Because why?
Those are marketing opportunities for our team.
Those are marketing opportunities for the team. And that builds your pipeline because you want to host another open house. You want to get more buyers. You want to sell them more houses. You want to take more listings out of those buyers because it generates more buyers and it helps that whole process. It's a virtuous cycle, as they say. So open house to build, it's a virtuous cycle. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit more about some of these things, how to prep and follow up, and we're probably just going to put it into this order right here. So we're going to talk about how to prep, how to conduct the open house, and how to do follow-up. All that's going to work out of that. We're going to pause for a minute. I'm going to welcome Tammy Eichhoff, come tell us a little bit about her story. Now, anybody know Tammy from the office or anything? Yeah, Jennifer does. She's on her team. That's a good thing. Tammy's one of the top agents in North Carolina. Yeah, I want y'all to know that about her. So you're going to get a chance to listen to her, and I really appreciate Tammy's model and what she's doing. I think it's just brilliant. But Tammy, tell us a little bit about open houses and what you're doing.
Well, Todd actually shared all the great things about the open houses, and I am a firm believer that you guys should actually experience both sides. And so I'm here to rain on the parade and tell you all of the ugly things that can go wrong with the open house from personal experience. In all fairness, I have done one open house and since I started real estate, and it was awful. It was literally awful because I did not prepare for it, and success loves preparedness, and I was very unprepared. And so it was a great house in a golf course community, and it was listed for a lot of money, and I was like, this sucker's gonna sell itself. Yeah. And I don't really have to do a whole lot. And so I scheduled in TMLS and said, it's out there for the world to see. They're gonna all come. I just know it. And so I went and I got the great cookies and got the balloons and I attached them to the mailbox, and I did everything that I thought I was supposed to do. And I sat there for 4 hours and I ate all the cookies and not a single person showed up. Nobody showed up. And so I was like, well, gosh, I don't know.
Man, that must have been disappointing.
It was very disappointing. I said, I do not want to do that ever again. I just don't want to do it. And so my next one, same exact house, the sellers were like, we want open houses. And so open houses appease sellers. They believe that they'll get people into their houses and it makes them happy, even though Todd's already shared with you, their buyer's not going to come from an open house. And so I said, well, I'm going to do it differently this time. I'm going to have somebody else do it because I don't want to go through that anymore. I'm not good at it, obviously, is what I was thinking. And I was like, I just can't take the rejection or eat any more cookies. I just can't do either. And so I put out on our KW Facebook page and said, I need an open house agent, and great resource for you guys because that's an easy way to get an open house. And so, and I don't believe the person is still with us. So she did all the right things, and she did the exact same thing as I did, and the balloons and the cookies and the whole bit. And about, I don't know, it was only a 2-hour open house, and about an hour and a half into it, I get a call from the seller, and she says, Tammy, we've got a problem. And I said, what's that? And she goes, well, I'm across the street from my house, and I'm watching. And I said, well, what are you watching? And she said, well, she showed up, and showed up early, and I watched her through my Ring doorbell bring all the cookies and the drinks and the whole bit and put out the balloons, and she was here early and she did great. And then about 30 minutes into it, somebody showed up and they had like 4 kids in the car, and they haven't left. And I'm listening to them because the Ring doorbell keeps picking up, and the kids are running through my house. And it sounds like they're having a party inside of my
Wow.
house.
Wow.
Yeah, that's not good. You shouldn't do that because nobody will want you to do an open house again. And so I definitely wouldn't have that agent do an open house again,
Yeah.
but it's kind of, that open house agent represents me.
Yeah.
And so, that's just,
Can I ask you some questions
do bad
about that?
things.
Can I ask you some questions about that?
Sure.
So what was your takeaway from those 2 open house experiences? You hosted one yourself
Yes.
and you had somebody host one for you. What did you learn from that?
Well, there were definitely teachable moments. And so, I think the first thing, again, preparedness actually contributes to success. And so,
So preparation contributes to success.
it does.
Unpack
in
that a little bit.
everything.
What's that mean?
In
Tell us about
absolutely
that.
everything. And so we can rush through things and try to get things done and just try to conquer it, but without any type of thought or foresight into what could happen, or just set yourself up for success from the very beginning. I mean, do things the right way. I did not put any marketing into it, any time, any effort. I didn't go knock on neighbors' doors and say, hey, we're having an open house. Do you know anybody? So I didn't do any of the things that I should have done in order to make the open house successful. And so that was what my key was whenever I did my own. But I think whenever I had another agent do the open house, I failed miserably because I was not in charge of the situation, which I should have been. And so I should have clearly defined expectations, because people will only give you exactly what you ask of them. And
Sure.
so I did not define expectations at all for that agent. And so that's on me. I did that. So.
Well, now, I don't know that you should expect that they would have kids run through the house for an hour and a half. I mean,
No.
you know, honestly.
No, but you also don't expect the seller to sit across the street at a girlfriend's house watching it either. You expect for them to go shopping or go out or do whatever. And so, but that just kind of opened my eyes is that, you know what? And they will ride around the block. They'll see if people are coming to their house and stuff. And so they're very in tune with what's going on. They want to make sure that you're doing your job.
Now, I've never known of anybody who had a Ring doorbell or a video monitoring system that was watching the open houses
That
that's
you know
going
of.
on, that I know of. However, I did have a seller one time, she would send plants to the open house. So she'd send neighbors in to see what I was doing. And she wanted, that was her way of keeping up. And, so, you know, somebody would come to the open house and the neighbor would leave. So it was interesting. I kind of put that together afterwards. So people like that with their houses.
Yeah.
So,
So you're saying the agent brought their kids?
Either the agent's friend showed up with all of her children, or it was all the children between the two, or something, but there were definitely children having a good old time up in the open house.
crazy. Go ahead, Don.
So as a new agent, so once you're at the, Tammy?
Yes.
At the open house, what is it you're supposed to be doing or not doing? Just something live and direct that we can relate to.
What would you
Once
suggest
you're
they did
there,
during the
what is
open
it you
house?
expect, say, a new agent to be doing and not to be doing?
Well, I think
To be
that-
sane and not to be sane.
Well, I think that depends on if there are people in the house with you or not. I mean, if you have people walking through. I mean, if there obviously isn't anyone walking through, then I typically tended for my one, was to pull out my laptop, and I worked during that time. It was, a nice quiet time to work for 4 hours while I eat all the cookies. So that's totally reasonable, but, you know, I mean, I certainly wouldn't be, let's see what's in these drawers. I wonder what's in this closet, what's under their bed?
What kind of medicine are you taking?
And everybody looks in the medicine cabinet, you know it, don't do it. So, you know, I mean, it's just common sense, it's common courtesy. I mean, and you walk into somebody's house and, you know, treat it how you would want somebody to be in your house is the number one thing. Always have the mindset is that, you know, if this were my house and somebody was doing an open house in my house, what would I think was acceptable and unacceptable? And if you run your business like that, then it'll keep you from getting in trouble, for sure, I think.
That's right. Yeah, just always respect people when you're in their house. You're a guest in their house, even if you're the agent who's listed it. And so just respect people and treat them well. That's a good word on that.
That's a good word for your business at whole too. I think is, you know, I mean, just treat people with the same customer service that you would expect, and just try to form those relationships the way that you would want them formed with you if somebody was representing you. So
Absolutely. So, well, I want to thank Tammy for coming today and sharing a little bit with us about open houses. Tammy does not enjoy open houses, so she's a champ for coming and tell us a little bit about her story there, and that's a good thing. So thanks, Tammy. So, well, let's talk through the process a little bit, okay? And let's think about it. So to me, it just kind of makes sense to take that timeline thinking about it. So the first thing we want to do for an open house, we want to prepare, right? Get ready. So, and you can get ready to get ready, but what we want to do with an open house is get ready to take a listing, right? We want to get ready to make a transaction happen with the buyer. So here's how you do that for an open house. First of all, as a listing agent, you want to set proper expectations with an open house and just tell your sellers, Mr. and Miss Seller, we're going to host your open house. We're not going to host an open house every week. We might, but we may not do it every week. Okay. But I think about if I was a buyer's agent, if I was a new agent, I'd be hosting 2 open houses a week. And I would be gunning to get at least 2 people that are unsigned into my database on average a week. Because if I work 48 weeks a year, that gives me 96 possible transactions over the course of 12 months. And if you get 96 shots at bat, there's a good chance you're going to be able to transact with those people, okay? And some of those people need to sell their house in order to be able to buy. And that's what we're really gunning for is those listings, right? Tell me what you want to say, Dave.
You just said you're as a new agent, we should be gunning for 2 open houses a week. Now, how do you suggest we go about doing that?
Well, if you're a buyer's agent on a team, you should be going to the Rainmaker or your listing agent and saying, dun, 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 when can I host an open house? You should be asking that. Okay.
We're not on a team.
Well, then you may want to ask agents in the market, may I please host an open house at your listing? Would it perhaps help you with your sellers if I hosted an open house for you? And you may say to some agents in the market center, if you ever need someone to host an open house, I would be delighted to host an open house for you. Would you please call me first? So you might say something like that. Those are some ways you could go about it. Does that make sense?
We did it for the Clark team on Saturday. They look for other agents to do their open houses.
Who is that?
The Clark team.
So let's talk about preparation. What's it look like to get prepared for an open house? Well, you're looking at about 7 days before. So you're going to host it on Saturday. You want to be 7 days before. You want to be out knocking doors in the neighborhood. Okay. And you may want to call out to the neighborhood and talk and leave messages. Hey, from the blank team, I'm hosting an open house at 123 Main Street. We hope you can join us this Saturday from 1 to 4. And you may have some door hangers that you go around the neighborhoods. Townhome communities are amazing places to host open houses. Because you can knock on 100 doors in 2 hours and you're not going to wear out much shoe leather to do it. It's up the steps, knock on the door, tell them what you're doing, 1 minute, hand them a thing. Please come and see us. We would love to welcome you to our open house. And here's what you'll find. There'll be some people that are thinking about it because there'll be renters that want to buy. And if you do meet somebody 7 days before as you're door knocking, or in the days that lead up to that as you're door knocking, and that they do want to buy, you can ask them this question: are you pre-qualified, or will this be a cash transaction? So take out your pencil and write that down. That's a great question to ask of folks. Are you pre-qualified for a loan, or will this be a cash transaction?
Those are
And
people-
90% of the time, they're going to say, no, we're not pre-qualified, but it will be a loan. What's that?
You're asking that to people who you're knocking on their doors and they're like, oh yeah, we are interested, we're renting, looking to buy, or when are you asking them?
So yeah, that's the second question I probably ask people, to be honest with you. So when I'm at the door and you meet somebody who does want to transact, that's a question that I ask them there. When they come into the open house, I might ask them this: so are you in the market to buy a house, or sell a house, or both? Or you might ask them this. This is another great question to ask them when they come in. Are you in the market to buy a house, or are you just a nosy neighbor? You don't say nosy neighbor, okay? But you might say something to the effect of, are you in the market to buy a house, or are you just looking at the neighbor's house?
Mm-hmm.
And that tells you real quick kind of where they are in the process, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay. So that's kind of what I think about there, and that's kind of how I think about it. That's sort of the first question I ask people. Are you in the market to buy a house, or do you just live in the neighborhood? If they live in the neighborhood, that's even better, because that means they're curious about what homes are worth, which means what?
They're ready to sell.
They're thinking about it. They need more information.
Or they're looking for a family member or someone they want to live near them.
Friends or family. 14% of all homes that are sold in America, friends and family pull someone to a particular neighborhood. So we're moving personally this summer because we want to get closer to family. So we're in that 14% ourselves. Make sense? So friends and family have a big pull. So you might ask somebody, so are you in the market to buy a home, or are you just a curious neighbor? That's a good way to say it. Okay. That's the first question. Then that tells you where they are. Then your follow-up question is what I just said in conducting the actual open house, right? Do you need to get a loan for this home, or will it be a cash purchase? Okay. So you just figured out, are they a buyer and or a seller? Do they need a loan, or will they be paying cash? Okay. So you just identified someone who's a potential buyer, someone who needs to get pre-approved. And that's the first thing you really want to ask buyers. So you got any money? You know? So, because you can spin your wheels for a long time with people.
Especially now.
Yeah. But if they don't have money, they're not pre-approved, they can't get pre-approved, don't waste their time. Don't waste their time. Be courteous to them. Care enough about them to figure out if they can actually complete a transaction. Care enough about them not to shop them at the wrong price point. Because if they can afford $300 and you're shopping them at $600, they're never going to buy $300 because they're going to be emotionally attached to $600, right? So care enough to help them right up front, figure out what they can buy, and then do a good job of showing them what they can buy as well. Does that make sense? Anybody want to contribute to that? Okay. Let's talk about some ways we can prep for this. So 7 days before, we can knock the neighborhood. Now listen, if you're selling multi-acre parcels, let's say you're selling a 4-acre parcel and every house in the quote unquote neighborhood is on 4 acres, you do not want to walk that neighborhood and knock doors, okay? Because you'll be tired, and at the end of the day, you will have only knocked on 12 doors. And it will take you 7 hours to do it,
Do
you
you
know?
just like go with your car then and drive along the?
I don't know.
I've got to go to 100 houses and they're like far apart.
Far apart?
Yeah, because I'm doing circle prospecting handouts.
Get one of those
There you go.
surveys.
So you can call. I mean, you got to make the determination what you want to do.
I'm gonna do it.
What's the
Todd.
use to do it?
I'm gonna
Don't,
do it.
yeah, do it. You know, that's the way. So do it, Julia. That's awesome.
It'll be
So
my exercise for the week.
yeah, that can be your exercise for the week. That's a
So
good
about
thing.
2 tennis matches too.
Oh, there you go. So you've got to determine how you want to use your time. Is it a good use of time, or is there a more productive use of time? But let's say theoretically, you're in a neighborhood of 1/4-acre lots. That's a good neighborhood to knock, you know. Townhouses, certainly. I sold like 3 townhouses in the same community through a door knocking campaign where I was just teaching an agent how to do an open house because he was in my downline. He said, would you teach me how to do an open house? I said, no problem. I'll come teach you how to do an open house. So I helped him sell his house. That was his mother's. That was their listing. It was their investment property. And then we met people through that and they came back to me the next year. And then we met people through that and they came back to me the next year and needed me to sell houses. So door knocking campaigns can be very effective. And I love townhouse communities because, I mean, you can take a listing on Friday and have a contract on Sunday, you know, just scrape the counters off, take some pictures, throw it online and keep moving. It'll sell, right? Here's a great place if you're thinking about preparing to conduct an open house. You want to do, if you want a listing out of it, here's an insider tip. Do a move up open house where somebody is upsizing for family, because there's a high probability they're going to need to unload another house in order to make that move. And remember, people shop before they're ready to transact, right? Because the fun part is going and looking at houses, right? That's what everybody likes to do. So get a move up open house. What is a move up open house in our market? Probably anywhere from 3 to 5.
Yeah.
3 to 5 is a move up, okay? So between 300 and 500,000. That's going to be a move up. Here's probably also they're going to have a kid and one on the way. That's a prime move up family right there. You see somebody walk in with a stroller and she's expecting, you know, just that's awesome, right? Because that's like gold right there. You're like, bang, they need to sell and buy. Okay, that's 2 deals. That's awesome right there. So so what you want to do is you want to look for a move up. So be strategic, okay? If you want your open house to produce 2 sales or 1 sale, 2 sales is better, right? 2 sales is better than 1 sale, right? So look for a move up in what you do. So try to host a 3 to 5 and look for the family that needs to buy and sell, okay? And they're going to look before they're ready because that's the way we work. We're people. But then they're going to have to get ready within that process, if that makes sense, okay? So you help them along the way and you'll become their trusted source and they'll come back when it's time to transact. Right, Jennifer? They come back. Okay, so let's talk about prep work. I'm all over the place and that's just the way I am. So we'll kind of do this. We'll talk about prep work. So you can door knock the neighborhood, right? You can call the neighborhood. So you can, here's probably the proper order. Put out signs. Door knock the neighborhood, call the neighborhood, and let's think about that too. Then you're
Hey,
going to have
Todd, I have a question.
follow up in your prep work. Hey, you're welcome.
Todd, I have a question.
Follow up in your prep work. So we got somebody on here.
Yeah, Todd, it's Michelle.
Hey, Michelle, how can you help us?
When you're talking about calling the neighborhood, do you
Yep.
have a secret to get neighborhoods' phone numbers, or is there some kind of contact list that you're referring to? What's the easiest way to do that?
Excellent question. The answer is yes. And the office has a subscription to Cole Realty. That's how I got started.
Oh, okay.
Cole Realty. You can download geographical area. You can download a neighborhood. If you want to call 500 people, you need to download 5,000 names. Okay. It's a factor of 10x. And then with 5,000 names, you're going to get 500 valid phone numbers. And with 500 valid phone numbers, you're going to get 100 people that may respond or answer in some way. And then out of those 100 people, you're probably going to find 2 to 5 that need to transact sometime and are willing to talk with you about it. So that's kind of how that works, Michelle. And you can download information from Cole Realty for free. So I do not do that as much as I used to because I have some different ways to lead generate now. But when I got into the business, I had no money, but I wanted to be successful. And so I was willing to figure out how to do this for the least money possible. So door knocking, it does not cost you any money to knock on doors. Okay. Phone calls. I'm already paying for my phone every month anyway. I might as well call somebody and see if they want to sell a house or buy a house. So I just looked at it as these are the 2 least expensive ways to get a transaction. And so that's how I got started with it. You can subscribe to services, Michelle. You can subscribe to services that'll give you more relevant information, but Cole's pretty good and they've got home phones and cell phones and you
How are you spelling that, Todd? Is it Cole as in C-O-L-E or is it Call, C-A-L-L?
C-O-L-E, excuse my East Tennessee accent, right?
No.
C-O-L-E, Realty.
Just, have Taylor come in and have Taylor set her up at that computer right there. I did it last week. That's how you do it.
Yep.
Okay.
See Julianne for help on that. So
No.
Okay.
Taylor.
what's your number, Julianne?
No.
So, all right. Everybody call Julianne. That's a good thing.
Julianne. Okay, I'm calling you Julianne.
So see the office. Taylor helps with that. It's free. You know, we pay for it as an office so that you as a new agent can receive that opportunity. So
You do have to come in to do it because we just have to.
You have to come in. Yeah. So you have to come in.
What exactly is Cole Realty though? Is it?
It's a real estate services company and they provide addresses, names, telephone numbers, and sometimes emails. Sometimes the telephone numbers work. So, yes.
So are these numbers already screened for the do not call list?
There's a way to do that. I don't know the current procedure, but Taylor will help you be legal. Yeah, we should be legal, right? Because we want to honor people.
Right.
And if people don't want to talk to me,
Do not disturb. Sharon will advise you to scrub any number you get against that. So before you call it out, you're just checking that,
You
make
guys
sure
check
it's
it.
not in the do not call.
Or you can just keep checking and then get your list and call
You get your list and then you check before you call each number against
each
it.
number against it.
Uh-huh.
Thanks.
Yeah.
and you can download it to an Excel spreadsheet and you can alphabetize it by DNC list. And then you can just go through and take all those numbers out. And then you can upload that to a dialer and then you can just dial through that dialer. So I began, that was sort of phase 2 of my calling was I began uploading numbers to a dialer and calling through that dialer.
Which dialer did you use? Sorry, go ahead.
Mojo.
Mojo.
Go ahead.
I've seen I was watching a video of some guy doing an auto dialer. Is that, where do you get those?
You just buy them online. You know, it's just a service.
Oh, you
And,
can buy it online? And
yeah, there's a number of dialers online and you can just buy access to it and you download the Excel spreadsheet. You load it up into the dialer, whatever dialer you want to use, CSV. And then you just start the dialing process and you have some scripting that you want to use as you're in that process. And mainly I just try to talk to people, be a real human. I try to honor people. If people don't want to talk to me, I don't want to talk to people. So, you know, just try to honor people in that process and scrub out the DNC, make sure that they're not in there. But, you know, everybody else has said that they don't mind to receive a phone call, so that's okay. So.
I know you already said, but like, what's the easiest way to scrub out from the do not call list?
So I download it to Excel. I go to the DNC column and I click alphabetize, and so you'll have DNC and non-DNC. And every DNC, I then go to the phone numbers and I click it and go down the list, and then I hit delete. I delete all those numbers.
Just as it matches up.
Yep.
You just do it manually.
You can get, like 5,000 names, you're gonna get 500 numbers, and you're gonna get, you're gonna get 5,000 names, you're gonna get 5,000 people there, you're gonna get probably 4,500 numbers, you're probably gonna get 4,000 DNC. I don't know, but something like that. You cut all those out, you're gonna get 500 names and numbers that don't mind to be talked to. You talk to those people, you're gonna get a couple of contacts that wanna do business. And you should be able to go through 500 names on a list within like a morning or afternoon, something like that, dial session. So that's kind of how I do it. But let's get back to open houses. So phone calls are fun. Open houses is our subject. So prep for the open house. We want to put out signs. Who knows what an open house sign looks like, right? Just says open house. I try to put the date on there and the time. I try to do my open houses at the same time, especially if I want to save money, right? Because I don't want to buy a new sign for every open house, right? So I just do Saturday 1 to 3, put it in the yard, okay? I go by and put it in the yard on Sunday. That way they're not confused about what Saturday it is. Here's the 2 best days of the week for open houses, Saturday and Sunday, right? Saturday, you can do one any time of day. But here's some prime hours, 12 to 4, 11 to 3. And for every hour that I do an open house, I expect 1 person to come through there. And for every 2 people that come through an open house, I expect that 1 person will be unsigned and will transact in the next 12 months. So the national average is 50% of people who come through an open house are unsigned with an agent and will transact within 12 months. So if I want to, by the numbers, get 2 people to add to my database, I should do an open house for how many hours? One person an hour comes through. I want 2 people to add to my database that are unsigned, right? Because I don't want somebody else's buyer in my database because they can't work with me, right? They've signed an agreement with somebody else. So if I want to add 2 people in my database, how long do I do an open house? At least 4 hours, right? 11 to 3 on Saturday, 12 to 4 on Saturday. Here's the other thing. You're going to find people in open houses that are ready to transact now, but the house they're at is not the right one. No problem, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer. You're pre-approved. You got that piece of paper with you. That's gold. All right. You come back this afternoon at 3, I've got a list of 50 other properties we can go see. And I'll tell you about how to do that as well to transact for immediate business. Okay. So we can do that. But we want to shoot for a long enough period of time that we're going to see open houses are a lead generation thing. That's a lead generation model, right? That's a lever. And 4 hours in an open house, you're going to talk to fewer people than if you're on the phone. However, it's an excellent way to generate for leads. And it's pretty effective. And Realtor.com and Zillow and MLS, all those folks are going to work for you to bring people into the open house, right? So your advertising will work for you. So you want to put up signs. You want to make sure it's posted on the MLS and on the commercial sites, right? And you can do that through going into the listing, and whoever the listing agent is has to do it. Post the open house. And then through the Keller Williams leverage of those commercial sites, that open house will get out to the public, okay? So that's the second thing I would do. I'd post signs, I'd post it online, because where do people find houses these days? Online, right? So you better be online with your open house, right? That'll help you to be more successful in your open houses. Be online with them. Post signs, door knock the neighborhood. I like to door knock neighborhoods on Monday and Tuesday nights. I'm not sure why, afternoon late. I'll go over after the after school crowd. Why?
Because they're home.
Because they're home. And I know families with 2 under 5, there's a greater than 90% chance that they're going to move. Okay, within a year.
I I did that. I moved at the same time. I had a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old.
Yep.
And prior to COVID, where all my business came from is I'm the nursery director at our church.
There you go.
In that preschool hallway.
There you go.
And then COVID happened and I realized, oh, I need another form of lead generation. So we've talked about this on our call as well.
Yeah, that's smart.
So cute.
That's smart, yeah. So anytime you see a family with 2 under 5, there's like a 90% probability they're going to move within the next 12 months. So those are good people to know, right? And those are typically going to be a move up. So they're going to need to buy and sell. And listings typically going to have to happen first. So that's a great way to get 2 deals. All right. So, so those are some things to think about. So when you door knock the neighborhood, you can do it the after school. So I'd go after 4 to 6 is a great time to knock on doors and let people know that you're hosting an open house on Saturday and just invite them to come by. I don't do balloons. I don't do cookies. Why? Because I'm not good at that. But I'm good at talking to people. And so I want to get people in and talk to them and just have a conversation, if that makes sense. So I do that Monday and Tuesday. I call the neighborhood in the morning, and then I sort of collect up, oh, okay, like maybe here's 3 or 4 people that might come to my open house. And so I'll just message them on Friday or Saturday. Hey, John and Beth, it was good to talk to you the other day. Just a quick reminder, we're still doing the open house. Can you still make it on Saturday? Oh, something came up. Timmy's got a soccer game. Okay, no problem. I can appreciate that. You might want to come to the one we're going to do on Sunday after church from 1 to 3 or 1 to 4, whatever it is, you know? And so those are sort of the most popular hours that we see. Saturday, like 11 to 3 or 12 to 4. Sunday, 1 to 3 or 4. Those are some good hours to do open houses. If you want to get creative and talk about when to plan it, you can do the after school crowd, especially if you're next to a great school. And you can say, you can have a sign out, you know, you could already be home if you lived here. Open house this Saturday. You know, you can have those kind of signs. If you're next to a great school, a great time to do an open house is on Thursday. Look at when the school gets out. School gets out at 2:30, you be there at 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock, and you want that after school traffic to come into your open house, right? Because if they're driving across town to be to that open house and they're looking for a house, they might just want to come in and put an offer on that house, you know? Or even if they're not, more likely, you can pick up a good contact through that will be a lead who might sell and buy with you. Okay? So those are some ways that you might prepare for an open house.
And
Those are
about
some creative
signs,
things.
can I ask you a question?
Yep.
So I know you were saying, I think about the one that you put right out front of the house, probably that you have the time on it. Jessica used to tell us to put, I think, 6 to 10 open house signs. So I went around in my one open house that I had and I was like trying to figure out how to make it work because all they say is open house. So I got some sticky things to put on it to have the address and I tried to make it make sense to lead them to it.
Yeah.
Is that the idea? Because, and that only gets one route, obviously. I would have needed like a lot more to get every route coming to it. But I thought, how else are people going to know where this is pointing them?
Okay. So here's 40.
Mm-hmm.
So here's 40, here's 70, here's a side street, here's the entrance to the neighborhood, here's the cul-de-sac, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to get anybody out on 40 because they're going 900 miles an hour. They're never going to see your open house sign, right? It's going to be blown down and blown to South Carolina by the end of the day, right? So don't waste money on 40. 70, maybe, okay? Maybe on 70. Here's what I try to do. I try to get the major roads, the first major artery, okay? Where people come off. Now, people come off the interstate right here on the 70, for instance. You put a little sign, open house sign, okay? You come down here, you put another open house sign, directional, directional, directional. But right here, you put 1, 2, 3 open house signs, okay?
Really?
All right, right here, you put 1, 2, 3 open house signs, okay? Right here, 1, 2, 3. Okay? And they're directional. And then right here in the yard, you put 1.
3? Just all of them, the same sign right next to each other almost, just
If
to
you can
get
afford
their attention.
7, put 7 in there.
Wow.
Here's what you want. You want to build it and you want it to be bigger and better. You want people to say, did you ever drive to South Carolina and see signs for south of the border?
Yes.
When do they start advertising for south of the border? It's somewhere north of Toronto, isn't it? Yeah. And I mean, and then every 20, 30, 40 miles, there's another one. You're going south of the border. I never saw such a place.
Are we there yet?
Are we there yet? South of the border. They got the dumbest advertising. But have you ever heard of south of the border? It may ever stop. I hadn't, but I got friends that stopped there. So here's what I know. If you get information in people's hands, they will come to you because they're still in business. We used to drive to Florida. We'd start seeing them in Orlando and then Jacksonville and then just right on and on. If you're up and down the East Coast on 95, you see that, right? Mm-hmm. So here's what you want to do. You're creating awareness of your open house with these signs, okay? And you want to build it bigger and better. And I mean, I've seen agents down in Florida, they'll have 7 signs in a row. And it's got their done picture on it. And they're selling, but they're marketing what they're doing. They're marketing themselves in this as well. So that when somebody goes to sell a house next year or in a few months, they're going to be like, you remember that guy did them open houses? Yeah, God, we should call him about our house. So an open house is about getting listings and buyers, okay? It's rarely about selling the house. So just use it as a lead generation technique. And bigger and better on the open house signage will get you there. Now I'll tell you what, if you do this in Cary, they will steal your signs. They'll steal your
I
signs.
had some signs stolen.
Yeah, they'll mow them down. They don't care.
It was Sanford though.
So know the local ordinance. Cary, you can have them out a day or 2 in advance. I don't know exactly what it is, but check it out. We don't care in Raleigh. Put your open house sign up, host one every weekend for a year, and we don't care. Just keep that open house sign up. So just know your local ordinance, but that's kind of what I might do if it were me. Now, I'll tell you about another open house I did. Some good friends of mine called me after I've been in the business for about a year, and they said, hey, you want to come over to the house and would you be willing to sell our house? You want to come list me? That's a come list me phone call. That's a good call. That's a real good call. Yes, I want to list your house and sell it. Yes, I do. How can I help you in that process? Dustin and Allison, they're awesome. They had a 1/4 acre. It was out towards Nightdale. It was on Old Faison Road, and it was right off the interstate. And I thought, we got 500,000 cars a day up and down that road, right? Not quite that many, but maybe 50, I don't know, a lot. And so I didn't put any on the interstate, but on exit 6 right there where everybody comes off, I put my open house signs, okay? I put them early. I did not door knock because, I mean, 1 acre lots on Old Faison Road, no, I don't have time for that. But what I did have time to do was make it shine online. So I put it in the MLS, made sure it was out early. And then, this was good. I held access to the property for realtors and their clients until right after the open house, okay? So if anybody was wanting to come to the open house, they could come to the open house and meet me before they met another realtor, right? So we did that on Saturday. I put my signs out on Monday. I called the neighborhoods, around 5,000 people, 500 names with numbers. I talked to people. I made my little list. I got the name and number of people that wanted to come to it. I called them back on Friday. I gave them a reminder, called them back on Saturday, said, are you still coming? They said, yeah. Well, guess how many people came to our open house? 2 hours on Saturday from 1 to 3.
60.
60. How many, any other guesses?
50.
50. I stopped counting at 60 because I lost track of it. And I couldn't get their names. I couldn't
Yeah,
get their numbers.
that's the thing too, is when there's too many, it's very hard to lead generate.
So I came up, so I learned something from that. I learned I need a better system. So they now make an app you can download to your iPad, and you can have them sign their name in before you grant access to the open house. And you can blame it on code.
And I've done that with no problem, and I hope we get to the follow-up because I still am having some problems with what to do with this.
Okay, so follow-up is easy. That's the easiest part of the whole deal.
If they have agents, is there anything to do with them? The 25
No.
that came with agents? Just take
Throw
them
them
out of the
away.
database even.
Throw them away.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then if they, yeah, okay, so there's just really 2, and then I know what to do with those 2.
Right. If they have an agent in an agency agreement, throw them away.
You don't even keep them in the database.
You
for
gotta
a
honor
period of
the, you
time.
gotta honor the ethics of they've signed with an agent, they're working with an agent.
Well, I know for this time, but I wondered if, because they won't always be with that agent, that expires. So I just wondered if I should delete them or keep them for anything, but that
I
makes
wouldn't-
sense to me.
You can't contact them when they're in an agency relationship.
Okay.
So you can't contact them when they're in an agency relationship.
Okay.
Now, if they meet you and they come back up to you and they said, hey, our agency is expiring at the end of the month, and we'd like to potentially work with you in the future if we haven't purchased already, then that's fine. You can talk to them, have a conversation. I have a website. I had several people come to me in the past year where they said, hey, we're not getting the service we think we should with our listing. Would you? And then once you get that call, then you can talk to them more about it. But if you just meet somebody in an open house, they got an agent, lose their number, okay? Lose their name, lose their number. But here's what you're looking for is unsigned and collect their data and then stay in touch. And that's kind of easy.
Quick question.
Yes.
You said you had an app. What's the name of that app?
I forgot, but we'll have somebody get that to you.
Is it
And
something
Would-
within?
You can create a landing page on command pretty easy, and there's a lot of YouTube videos if you just Google it. That's how I did it. And so then they'll be fed right to your command, those leads. They'll just pop right in there. Yeah.
you can do that. You can do a landing page. There's an app. I'll try to follow up on that app. I know somebody who knows the name of it. We'll try to get you that app. But it's something like open house or something that way. And they just put their name and their number and their email in. And then you can send them listings from that. You can feed them right into KW. You can ask them if they're pre-approved. If they have a lender, if so, which one are they working with? And so you just try to add value to what they're doing, stay in touch with them. So do they have an agent? And then you want to lose the ones that have an agent, keep the other ones. And work to become their agent. So people need information, then they want service, and lastly, they want the transaction. So that's the way I try to show up. Info, service, transaction. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, this one's not appropriate for you, but I've got a list of 50 other homes. Maybe you want to look at some of these. If you can meet me back here at 3 o'clock, I'll take you to see those. Okay, what's your favorite? What's your top 2 out of these 50? Because the other 27 have been sold since you came to the door. So, it's a fast market. So which ones do you want to see? What's your favorites? Maybe that's how you want to do it. So follow-up, right? You want to talk about follow-up. We're going to get to follow-up. So this is kind of what I do. I put out signs, I knock the neighborhood, I call the neighborhood, I follow up the neighborhood. We talk through the whole process. We get people to come back. We host it on MLS and commercial sites. We may even promote it in the office. If you got a team meeting coming up, you got an open house, it's a great one to invite people to with their agents. You never know what may happen out of that. You may sell it through that. Okay. So let's talk about how to conduct the actual open house. All right, so you've got your app on your iPad. And And Tammy talked a little bit about this. She talked about prepare, right? Preparation is the key to success. I think that we set ourselves up for the opportunities that are before us, and we kind of do that in the way we show up. So I get ready before I do it. I put out my open house signs about a week in advance, maybe 5 days. I've called the neighborhood. I've prepped real well for this thing. I've got my app on my iPad, and it's ready for people when they come in the door so they can put their information in it. Here's what I like to do. I show up 15 minutes early. I show up 15 minutes early. And why do I do that? Why don't I roll in 5 minutes late?
15 minutes was not nearly enough for me. I will just say I needed a good 45 minutes. I learned that after my first
Okay.
open house.
So you can get situated.
Yeah.
You need to turn lights
Log on to their
on,
Wi-Fi. They're going to give you that.
Make sure the place is presentable.
Correct.
Just a preparation, so you don't feel rushed if somebody's coming at the same
Took
time.
more time than I
Correct.
realized.
Or if someone comes early, you don't want to be setting up while they're waiting in the.
Correct. You want to be ready for people, don't
Right.
you, Will?
Mhm.
And there's some people that are 5 minutes early, right?
Yeah,
So my wife's birthday was Sunday. We went to a restaurant, and for brunch, it opened at 10. We were standing there at 9:55, just waiting on to open the door, you know? And it was just a function that we just showed up a little bit early. So there was 14 other couples standing there as well. So sometimes for a high demand thing, people are going to come early. So you may want to be a few minutes earlier, even than 15 minutes, but at a minimum, standard practice, I'm going to be there 15 minutes early. If the dog threw up, oh my gosh, you know, what would be worse? To have folks discover it when they're walking through, or you find a towel and get that mess gone before people come in, right? Because you don't want people to encounter something in a house that's not right. So you get the lights on, you turn the fans on, you make sure that the house is comfortable. You know, sellers trying to save money in the winter time, turn their heat down to 55. Their pipes probably won't freeze, but nobody's gonna have a good time at that open house, right? So you get that temperature on 70, make it right. People come in, feel comfortable. People are comfortable, they'll spend more time. You might want to turn some music on, okay? Just get you a good playlist, open house playlist, download it, something upbeat, something that everybody likes, something that's memorable. Those are some good things to do. What's the number one reason people buy a house? Anybody know? It's not rocket science, right?
Investment.
What?
Investment.
Investment, maybe.
it's a need.
It's a need. Anybody buy an ugly house?
Oh, because it's beautiful? Because they like the aesthetic?
Because
Is
they
that
fall
what
in love with the house, right?
Okay.
No matter what price point it's at, it's an emotional decision
Mhm.
to purchase a house, right?
Mm-hmm.
So connect their emotions to the house and you'll see a lot more transactions, but they'll also get connected to you emotionally as their agent. And so you want to help them get through that process. So flowers and candles are great things in staging because they connect people emotionally, don't they? Those are some, think about weddings, funerals, we have flowers, we have candles. Flowers and candles are times of celebration and emotional connection. So that's a great thing to do, stage a house. That's why you always see them there. But 100% of decisions on residential are emotional decisions. Probably not 100%, but probably like 99.99 decisions of a residential ownership are about emotions.
Okay, so I think I got myself in trouble on my first open house because I was talking so much. I mean, I didn't get myself in trouble by the grace of God, but I could have. And I'm going to be meeting this potential buyer for lunch coming up.
Good.
So it turned out good, but
Yeah.
it was a lesson and I'd like to know how to bypass it in the future because I'm representing the seller. I was doing my own open house and you can very easily start talking a lot to this buyer
Sure.
and find out all about their situation, their wants, their needs, and then I guess the point, well, yeah, and so even though I was gonna refer out if they didn't have an agent, because I have to, I'm provisional, still, now I know all that about them if they did wanna buy the house. And I'm, you know, fiduciary responsibility to tell that to my clients. So how do you work that emotional connection you're trying to build, real friendly, real natural, and then keep a big wall there too of what they tell you?
I'm not worried about the wall. I'm not worried about the wall. You have a fiduciary responsibility to who?
Your client.
Yeah, you have a duty to the public to be honest
Mm-hmm.
and to disclose, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you tell them you're an agent. Hey, I'm here representing the seller. You work that into conversation early on. Hey, I'm hosting an open house today on behalf of my seller. I work for the seller. Is there anything I can do to help you? You
Okay.
don't build a big wall. People
So-
don't like walls.
But if they're telling you like, well, I have, you know, they start to tell you something that could be compromising for their position if they were to negotiate for that house that you
Have you
would
told them
then.
you're an agent? Have you told them you work on behalf of the seller?
Okay.
Have you asked them how you could help them? You're not responsible for what they disclose to you.
Yeah, I maybe haven't spelled out that part of the WWRA because that'd be awkward. Like, and anything you disclose to me, I will be disclosing to my client. And I understand it won't come up that much because 1% are actually.
Going to transact. So, so there's a low probability they're going to even bring an offer on that house, much less transact on
And they
it.
do
Okay,
that, yeah.
they're shopping, they're early. So be helpful and just, you know, help people and be a real human. Be a real human within it too. And don't fail to, you know, fulfill your duties to the state and the public. You can do that, and you can build relationships with people in the process. But you don't need to make it more than it is. You just make it, I'm hosting an open house today on behalf of my seller. Is there anything I can do to help you?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you told them that. And then if they want to tell you stuff, you can tell them more about how you can work together in North Carolina. Well, we can do this or that. And you can tell them a little bit more about that process if they need to know, okay? But most of the time, they just need to know how to get pre-qualified. They're nowhere close to it at an open house. So you just kind of lay groundwork. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
So at that time, can Julianne ask them if they're already working with an agent? Could she?
Yes. And in fact, I would. I
Right.
would. I'd ask them that very
And
early.
no, they're not. Is that when she could recommend someone from her firm or something like that, or?
So
If they're
she
telling too
could.
much, if they're telling too much.
She could potentially refer them to someone with the firm, but if you're hosting an open house and someone's unrepresented with the seller, you want to figure out how you can help them yourself. Because unless you're in a designated dual agency relationship, now so I sold one for a lady named Barbara down in Holly Springs I guess it was last October, and Barbara did not do a lot of real estate deals. She had been in that house for almost 20 years. And she said, Todd, I need to get to my next house. It may be my final house, but would you help me? I said, no problem. And I had an unrepresented buyer call me and say, we'd like to see this house. I said, no problem. I'm on my way. When can you be there? So I went down and I showed them the house and I sold them the house, and they were ready to present an offer on the house. And actually I was in dual agency with Barbara, so I could represent the seller and the buyer, but these folks were unsigned. And so at the last minute before writing an offer, I disclosed to them how we could work together. The wife said, wouldn't it be better if we had another agent? And I said, no, it would not be better if you had another agent. I said, no, I said, it would be fine if you had another agent. I said, let me call someone for you. Would that be helpful? She said, yeah. So I called somebody and I said, I needed somebody from the office to run something for me from Clayton to Raleigh because my seller couldn't make it to Raleigh to drop his papers. And I just put out on there, I will pay you for your time. And an agent contacted me and said, Todd, I'm in Clayton. I'm going to Raleigh. What's the address to address you need? I'll do it, no problem. I said, okay, thank you. I will remember that. That was on Wednesday or Monday, I forget. And then the seller called me 2 days later, the buyer called me 2 days later. I went down to the house and I sold that house. And they put it in offer in because of what I did. But they said, we need another agent to represent us. I said, no problem. I called my friend who ran something for me from Clayton to Raleigh. I said, you want a buyer?
Yeah.
She said, yeah. I said, can you write an offer to purchase? She said, yeah. I said, can you give me a referral fee for giving you somebody that's ready to transact now? She said, yeah. I said, come on down.
Right.
Let's write an offer. You know, and they had asked me, so we put it all together and then she transacted. And I kind of charged her more for that. I think we were close to 50% referral. Because I went and showed the house. I found the buyer. I sold the house. I did everything but write the offer, right? Then she helped them through the transaction, right? You know what? Barbara sold with me and she bought with me. And when we finished buying, we transacted on Sunday, I think it's October the 30th or 31st, something like that. She said, Todd, you know, Coretta lives behind me. She's been thinking about selling.
Wow.
You should call her. I said, okay. I said, would you get permission? I'll call her. So I went over and talked to Coretta, and Coretta signed with me right there. And I called up those same buyers. I put it on the market. I said, y'all interested? They said, we sure are. I called my agent friend. I said, you better talk to your buyers and bring me another offer. You know who bought that house? The same set of buyers. So my friend did 2 deals, and I did charge her 50%, but she did 2 deals out of that. It just happened to work out that way. So here's my point. And Barbara's going to turn into 10 deals. Now that was last October. This is June. So in less than a year, we're going to do 10 deals through Barbara.
Wow.
Okay. But I kept up with Barbara for 18 months, right? And that's 1 phone call a month or a text message or an email, just touching base with you. How you doing? I met Barbara. She was ready to sign and list with me 2019. And she got scared. She wasn't sure if she could do it. I said, Barbara, no problem. She said, we're going to wait till it's the right time. So she decided in the middle of COVID, she was ready. All right. So sometimes it just takes a minute, right? So Barbara bought with me. She sent me Coretta. Coretta sent me Sean and Tiffany. They sold and bought with me. Then Barbara sent me Carolyn and Will. They bought with me. They may sell with me. Then Barbara's friend Horace called me up, said, hey, I heard you did a good job for Barbara. I'd like you to help me sell and buy. And then we got one more coming out of that as well. So here's my point. Be real, show up, help people. Somebody calling. So be real, help people, and stay in touch. And at the right time, they'll know that you're the person that cares about them and will help them, right? That's all it's about. There's no rocket science. Open houses are just a way to lead generate, okay? It's just another way to lead generate. Nothing rocket science about it. A good open house, you have 4 people come through, okay? You add 2 people to your database out of the 4. Woo! You did all right. You're doing good. Because we know if you can stay in the business for 12 months, out of those 2 people, you're highly likely to have a transaction work for you, okay? If you can do 2 open houses a week and you can add 2 people per open house, that's 4 people a week. Let's just say you work 48 weeks out of the year. You've added a significant portion to your database, and you should be having way more business than you can handle. And it's not just buyers, it's also sellers that come out of open houses, okay? So I think it's the quickest, easiest way to lead generate to what you want to do. Does that make sense? Okay. So you got your app on your iPad. This is the actual open house. I turn on all the lights. I make sure the house is comfortable. I open closet doors. I want to check on the general condition of the house. Now, I always tell my sellers, hey, look, here's the top 5 things to secure before your open house. Cash. Why? Cash walks away. Jewelry. Why? Jewelry walks away. Handguns. Why? Handguns walk away. Expensive liqueurs, because it walks away. And medicines, because it walks away. So just to look out for my listing, my seller, I take a quick look through the house and make sure all their valuables are secured. If they left $9,000 in small bills on the table, I'm gonna tuck that in an envelope for them, put it in my pocket, and when they get back home, I'm gonna give it to them and say, hey, you left this out. There was all 9,000 when I got here. I hope that was all you left out, okay? So you can kind of do that as what you're doing. So to secure the house, make the house comfortable, make it a place people want to live in, because you want to, or hang out in, because you want people to hang out in, right? In the house. Because most people are not going to buy the house, but you want to create a comfortable environment for people to hang out in because they'll get more emotionally connected to you as their agent or potential agent, and it allows you to connect with them more. So you're just looking for an increased surface area exposure. And it's just like boiling water. You know, the broader the pot, the faster it's going to boil, right? Because there's more surface area with the heat. So you're getting more heat into the water. You put 1 gallon of water in a broad surface area, it'll boil quicker than in a narrow surface area. So what you want is breadth of exposure to people within this process. And creating a comfortable environment that they want to hang out in, they want to stick around, that creates a good thing within that for them. And for you as their agent. So that's kind of why we do what we do. Make sense? Yep.
So I haven't done an open house yet. What is the app? What is the open house app?
I forgot, but I'm going to get that information to you and we'll help you with it. But there's an app you can download. I think it's $5. You can put it on your iPad and then you can have everybody's name and phone number and email and you can, so you used to be able to blame it on COVID. You could just say, hey, we want you, the sellers requested that we communicate with people. If we go into contract on this one, I just want to let you know, or if it's multi-offers and we're calling for an offer, we won't be able to tell you in a timely fashion. So you could say something like that and capture their data. So open houses, here's what you need. You need to know who they are. You need to know how you can get in touch with them, email, phone. You need to know where they live currently, do they rent or own, and you need to know if they're pre-approved or not. So you got any money? You got any money? Okay, that's a good question to ask early on. And then fifthly, you want to know, are you working with an agent? Okay, so those 5 data points should get you pretty far through the conversation with somebody. Okay,
Is that on the app?
I don't know,
Shouldn't we just
but that's what you need to know. So however you need to get to that,
Information.
that's the information you need.
I was sorry, was there a specific app you say you use for iPhone? Or?
Yeah, I don't know. I forgot. I'm sorry. I'll try to get you that data later.
Everybody wants
So,
the same.
But you can use a landing page right off command. I think
You
it
can
does the
do that.
same thing for you.
you can do that.
Don't pay anything.
You can do that.
I guess the beauty of the app is you can, when they come in, send it to their device for them to, like, what would be
You can
the
send
advantage of
notifications
that?
to their device. It'll upload it directly into your CRM, and then you can put them on a contact program, follow up.
Which the command, the landing page will do. So I'm not sure. I don't know if I see the advantage of the app. I vote for landing page. I don't know.
They're free. That's good.
Yeah.
So you can do that. You can do the landing page.
The
and That's
landing
perfectly
page.
fine. Yeah.
Just if you just
Make
look
it
at
happen.
the YouTube video. That's all.
What about just
I've
having
heard
like a
that.
written sign in? I mean, do you recommend against that at this point or?
Here's my observations about that, Will, and then you make your own decision.
What was the question?
His question is, should we do it handwritten? Or what do you think? Here's what I think. I used to do surveys with people, okay? And I would always hold the clipboard and write. Why? Their name, their phone number.
Because you can read your handwriting?
Because I can read my handwriting, but half the time I wasn't, what does this say?
And what I did on this last one, since I had 17 agents coming in, is have them sign the clipboard.
Mhm.
And then if they work with an agent, have them sign it into my landing page.
Sure.
And then write in the notes, have agent if they did.
Right, right. So that's kind of why I like typed notes, because it's easier to read. But you do whatever you're comfortable with. But here's my observation. Most people don't want to do a handwritten thing. And
They're
they
more
get
likely to
there
do that.
and they're the first one on the list. Nobody wants to be first for some reason. So here's what I did when I worked surveys, all right? So I'd write in one name, everything legibly. Then I'd write in a second name, everything legibly. Why? Because the second person indicates community buy-in. And most people are part of the community. And here's the thing, most people are not leaders, but most people, when they see that second person get up and start dancing at the wedding, then everybody's on the floor, right? Nobody wants to be first, and for sure, nobody wants to be second. Everybody wants to be third. So when I worked surveys, I'd put 1, I'd put 2, because that's just the way we are. You know, we're a little reluctant, we're a little reserved. We want to make sure it's comfortable and safe. So I make it safe and comfortable, and then I help other people get into the process. The beauty of the app is we promise not to reveal who else is on there too. Because then other people can see their information. That's another reason they don't. You go to the doctor's office, you write your reason for the visit. You won't slide that thing down because you don't want anybody else to know. Yeah, so that's a part of it. And maybe that's HIPAA, but that's just comfort, you know. People like to be comfortable, you know, so protect their stuff and help them out in the process, if that makes sense. So, what else? So make sure people have a good time. However you have a good time, have your music on, you know, broad appeal. It's just like staging a house. You want decluttered and depersonalized. So you want neutral, and you want everything about the open house to be neutral as well, because people can put their own stamp on it. It's the same way. But you want to show up as a real person, and you want to have personality, and you want to experience and have people have a good time. You want to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to know, are there any rules to like walking around and eating? Cause like, you know, I get nervous if I'm showing a house for a renter and they come in with something to drink or whatever, and they got white carpet in here. I mean, any rules concerning that?
I just try to think about honoring my sellers, and I might say, hey, do you mind to leave that grape soda over here in the kitchen, because that white carpet, you know, in the sunken living room, it might not be so good. So you could say something like that. I don't know that there's any rules, but I don't bring snacks or food to events because it's not who I am. So I just don't do that. So I try to keep stuff out of there. Right. I might have some water bottles sometimes, but usually not.
Okay.
Usually I just want to help meet people and sell houses. So that's what I do. All right, now let's talk about also, we've talked about the prep. We've talked about the actual open house, right? Now we want to talk about the follow-up. Any questions about 1 and 2 before we go on to 3?
I guess I'd just say if you had any tips for when you do have so many people coming in at once, because my first and second experience were so different, and I think you've already given it in that you said you gave us a tip on who to look for, because it's sort of like, how do you maximize that opportunity when there's a lot of people in the house at once? And maybe you look for the step up people, like you're saying, like if there's one with a, you know, that's obviously in that position, you might zoom in on them. Maybe you just have to pick and choose. And maybe there isn't any strategy you can say other than feeling out the situation, who seems most open to talk. But it just got to where I couldn't really talk because there were so many people, and you want to keep an eye on what's going on. So
you do. You want to keep an eye on what's going on. Here's my general rule of thumb. There's only so much I can handle, so I need technology to help me. If I think it's going to be a blowout and I've got another buyer's agent on my team, I'll have 2 buyer's agents there. Right? Because 2's better than 1, right? So you could have a second buyer agent. Maybe somebody works the upstairs and you work the downstairs. But here's what I also do. I look for the low-hanging fruit, okay? You want hard or easy? I want easy, right? So I look for the low-hanging fruit. I try to make conversation, talk to people. You got an agent? Pass that. How are you doing? Good to meet you. You have an agent? No? Let's walk together. Okay? We're just walking together. We're talking about the house. Have you seen this many bedrooms in a house before? I never have. How about that? So what about that purple color on the wall? Isn't that amazing? So you just talk and have conversations with people.
Yeah.
You're looking for low-hanging fruit. You're looking for people that don't have an agent. If you're overwhelmed, collect as much biodata as you can, and then you sort it out in the follow-up.
Yeah.
Hey, Martha Stewart, thanks for coming to our thing. Do you have an agent? Sorry, you didn't fill that part out. Oh, you do? Okay, great. Wish you all the best. Hang up. Hey, Martha Stewart, thanks for coming to our thing. Open house. Do you have an agent? No? Oh, that's interesting. Do you plan to make a finance purchase, or is this going to be a cash purchase? Financed. Oh, great. So have you got your pre-approval?
because you want to know, do you have any money? And then you go on through that with them. Do you need a referral to a lender? I have a great local lender that can help you. You want to show up and be helpful. Information, service, transaction, IST. Okay, that's your priority within it. You're looking for low-hanging fruit who doesn't have an agent, who needs to get something done. We lost our lease. Our landlord sold the property. We got to be out in 60 days or 30 days. You meet somebody that lost their lease and needs to get out and has money, cash buyer, right? Yeah, we can be closed on Thursday. Right, let's do it. So just got to find the right one and help them. So that's how I prioritize it when it's overwhelming. But maybe those are some things you could do. Two agents, you're working on a team, leverage it together. Look for low-hanging fruit, eliminate people that can't work with you and don't pay any attention to that. That's what you want.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all common sense. Any other questions about those first two?
Good stuff.
Good stuff. All right, let's talk about follow-up.
Love that ringtone.
Okay, so how do we do follow-up?
Well, on my last one, out of the 25 that came through and the 2 that were legitimate to follow up with, I just sent them an email personally, because there's only 2, so I didn't need some big system for it. And I'm now thinking to follow up again. And I haven't done it. I'm probably gonna do a phone call because I didn't hear back from either of them.
Yep. What % of your email do you read?
Depends on which account, but on my personal account, not even half.
Did it make it through their spam filter?
Right, maybe not, yeah, for sure.
Wow.
So, okay, don't be surprised, right? Okay, so what do we need to do?
Yeah.
We need a it's like Phil Spector's wall of sound. You need a wall of communication. You need up high, you need in the middle, you need down low, right? So you need to come at them with email, phone calls. Here's the secret. Shh, don't tell nobody. Text, right? What percentage of your texts do you read or at least look at, right?
Yeah.
All of them, almost 100%.
So true.
Even the ones you don't open, you get 80% of the message.
I just
in the
responded to
preview.
health insurance. I've been reached out so many times, but because it came through text.
Yep. So I'm the same way. Everybody's the same way. Who's got time to read an email? You know, we need one sentence. One sentence. Are you under contract yet? Or could I help you find something that would be a good fit for your housing need?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you under contract yet? That's a great lead, right? I'd write that down. That's a great text. Are you under contract yet? Do you need help in this market getting under contract? We received 17 offers on that house on Saturday. Do you maybe want to work with a professional that can help you get sold? Yeah, they need help, okay? They see the value. Help them see the value.
I will say that
My-
that open house I did where only 8 people came through, my own listing a while back,
Mhm.
I was able to really talk and connect with each one. When I followed up, each one of them got back to me by email.
How about
And
that?
said it either that they weren't, or they got back to me though. And this time I wasn't able to make that personal connection, and neither of them have. So I think that's a big difference too.
Okay, that's a big difference. So identifying low-hanging fruit while you're in there and then focused on spending time with them while they're in the open house, that's a good thing to do. And then Phil Spector's wall of sound. You want an entire wall of communication coming at them and repeatedly. You can do 10 days of pain, okay? Here's 10 days of pain. 1 email, 1 phone call, 1 text message for 10 days in a row. You'd be surprised how many people start responding after about day 3. You'd be real surprised how many people respond to you by the end of day 9, okay? You message people with a wall of communication for 10 straight days, and here's what they're gonna say: why do you keep calling me? Right? Why do you keep calling me? They wanna know. Have you bought a house yet? Because I found a great one that'll help you. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, right in the neighborhood you want to be. We need to go see it now.
Okay, did you get pre-approved yet? No, oh, we can't go see it, okay, because you ain't got any money. So we'll just walk through that with them, help them. Information, service, transaction. So get the information, help them in the service, and then they'll transact with you, okay? Try to help them get pre-approved before they go shop. So you're shopping the right price, right? So, because they shop everything.
Are you, I bet you have your favorite lenders you go to, like I have one that I feel already obligated because we have the personal connection, but then Scott's telling us about the tools in our tool belt and Keller Mortgage, and that sounds like a really great thing to mention to buyers, especially that might be first time. Are you using that much, or?
You need 2 referrals for every.
Is that a rule or just
affiliate.
best practice?
This is, I don't know if it's a rule or not. I'm just telling you, you need 2, okay? You need 2. Why?
Well,
Choices.
yeah, so it didn't look
People
like
love
you're
choices.
just, okay.
Now, I have preferred lenders that I work with, okay? But you need 2, and you need to refer to. People love choices, and you don't want to have only given 1 referral in case there's a problem or a transaction, right?
That's true, yeah.
So if somebody has malpractice within what they do, you don't want to have only referred 1. You give them 2 home inspectors, you give them 2 lenders, you give them 2 of everything. Okay? And then they choose which one they want to go with. Okay? And if people come into and out of your service, vendor, personnel, whatever, no big, things happen. That's the way I think about it.
That's good, yeah.
Yeah. So options, people like that. Service, people like that. Just let them compete for that quote. So here's how we do the open house, right? So we're following up afterwards. So we're emailing, we're calling, we're texting, and we're trying to show up and add value. Do you need a lender? Said you weren't pre-approved. Are you working with anybody? Here's an online portal that you can get pre-approved. If you need to speak to a human, here's a phone number and a name that you can call. You try to show up and help them. Also, one reason I like to have 2 of everything is because people take vacations. People take vacations, they go out of town. So when your preferred lender goes out of town and you got a buyer that needs to get qualified to put in an offer now, you need 2 people they can call, right? So you need 2 of everything, redundant. So that's a good way to do it. So follow-up. What's the follow-up to an open house?
Reach out to them afterwards.
Reach out to them. Yeah, stay in touch. So I didn't meet Barbara through an open house, but I met Barbara through a phone calling campaign. And I stayed in touch with her through phone calls and text messages for 18 months. And Barbara wouldn't answer her phone, and I'd leave a voice message and she wouldn't call me back. But I was sitting right out here at the stoplight on Northbrook, I guess it is, the day she texted me and said, "Todd, I'm ready. Would you come list my house?" I was leaving work for the day. And I got that text on my phone as I was sitting there. I said, "You bet. On the way. On the way now." Stood up the listing papers in my car. We're ready to roll. You ready to roll? Okay. What else should you do prep-wise to be ready for buyers and sellers at an open house? I mean, I apologize for asking that question. There's no way that you could know what I'm thinking about. But let me suggest this. I learned this from Robbie Cavender. Never go anywhere without a complete set of listing papers for a seller and listing papers for a buyer. You have 2 folders in your car and you never use them unless you're out and somebody needs to do business now. But you're always ready. So then you always prepare for your listing, bring the extra one. And Buddy just called me. We're co-broking a listing together, and we went into the listing appointment and the seller made a mistake on the page. Well, I have my extra set of listing papers with us, so we just tore up that page in the contract and substituted the next one, and we were able to complete the listing without having to stop and go get a fresh piece of paper printed or send it to them electronically later. So be ready, be prepared to take action on listings. So always go around with a set of listing papers and a set of buyer's agency papers with you and have your disclosures. WWREA, 140, 141, net sheet, WWREA, exclusive listing agreement, because you never know.
How many times have you used that, those backup?
Well, I just used it for this listing that we took in February. I had my backup papers with me and I used it in February. I can't remember if I've used it since then.
Okay.
But you never know what you're gonna walk into. And here's another great business question. While you're in the listing appointment, is this the only property you need to sell? Okay, now I've picked up more than one listing before. Robbie got 11 listings in one appointment one time by asking, is this the only property you need to sell or are there others? That dude was an investor and he was unloading his whole portfolio. So Robbie didn't have 11 listing papers with him. He came back the next day and they signed the rest of the paperwork, right? So I guess here's my point. Be ready and prepared for whatever presents itself. And here's another great question to ask. Who do you know that needs to buy or sell? Because who knows buyers? Other buyers, right?
Right.
Yeah, and just think about that when you meet people at the nursery or the preschool or whatever, and one people's getting ready to buy, and another set's getting ready to buy. Buyers know buyers. And it's amazing how you meet each other and it comes up in conversation. Cool. So those are some. I don't know that those are. I don't know that those are anything except some good advice. Those aren't really necessarily things that you want there. But here's some follow-up you can do to an open house. You can send them every listing in their price point that's in the area, whatever's important to them.
Sure,
You can
that
set them
makes
on an
sense.
MLS, feed them. You can set them up on a housing search if they're a buyer.
That's a great idea. I think that's how I'm gonna follow up with those two people today, instead of just calling, saying, hey, I'd like to send you that, because I can.
You can just say, hey, I just set you up on a housing search. Is it reaching you? You can be concerned about it. You can provide them with information at a higher level of service. Did the houses that are available in your area reach you? And they may respond to that. And they want to be in Cary or in this school or that school. Here's everything from 3 to 400 in that price point in this school zone that's active. There's 3 houses. Which one's your favorite? Okay. So follow-up is just a matter of caring about people and staying in touch with them. And you're looking for the right time in their life to help them. So that's kind of the deal. Okay. Any other questions from what we've done so far? I think we're good. Any other questions? Do you have enough to go do an open house and follow up afterwards?
One other thing I would mention, because this all came up for me when I did my first one, and the second one was a lot better. Tammy never did her second one. I think everyone's first one's probably not great, but they might ask for, do you have this house, the listing, the doc, like the MLS printout of it, the information? And since I don't like to print a lot of paper and that stuff, on the second one, I had it on Paragon. You can look it up and then send it to yourself by text. And so then I had that text ready to forward to them with a link in it, so they can get all that information on their phone. And then they gave me their number on the spot too, and I'd just be putting it in. So that was one other thing to have prepared. Either printouts or a electronic version.
MLS sheet is good information to have. So that's great. You can also share your app with them if you want to by text, and then they can look up all the houses in MLS they want to. MLS sheets are very helpful to have because they have square footage, year build, all that stuff. If you don't have a photographic memory for that, and you can hand them the sheet, and I guarantee you they're going to ask you the exact thing that you were just looking at.
So
Mm.
like, I'll highlight the square footage.
Mhm.
I'll highlight the year of build. I'll highlight a few pertinent things. And my New York investor clients came down. They're thinking about, I can't remember. So a land broker buddy of mine introduced me to these folks, and they're thinking about bringing their investment money, some of it down here. And so she's looking at like 8 million,
Mm.
right?
How do you
Enclosed
get
volume.
those people, Todd? These out of town people? That's through your-
Well, in this particular case, a friend of mine who's in a parallel business, he does land sales here in central North Carolina. He realized they were looking for someone to help them with residential purchases, and he referred them to me. And we refer business back and forth. We're friends. So,
That's good.
and in fact, he called me and we're co-brokers on that listing agreement. So in this particular case, I met him through my friend. And so anyway, we talked about that. Well, when she came to town, I had 3 days of stuff planned out. Day 1, day 2, day 3. And I had all the MLS sheets and I had everything highlighted. I said this much for an acre in this part of town, this much for an acre in this part of town, this much for an acre in this part of town. Here's what you can, she can buy whole developments and then rent them out if she wants to, right? So I said, here's the acquisition. Here's what we could probably leverage this to. She says, oh, you're so organized. I said, I am not so organized. But I was very organized in that situation because I knew it would help her to be able to process it. And she had her daughter assistant with her who's very organized, and so that was helpful. So I just try to make it easy on people, try to give them some value, make it easy. And that's really open houses or business or sales. That's all it's about, helping people. So. All right, well, I want to thank y'all for being here today. And if you get an open house, hopefully you'll have some information that will help it to be more successful. Anybody ever, sang before, either just on stage or for people? Yeah, tell me about that. What was that like?
I'm a comedian.
Are you really?
You
How
teach
about
them
that? What's your experience been like with that? Where do you perform?
Mostly churches.
Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Uh-huh.
How many times have you done that in your life? Would you estimate?
I've been doing it for 30 years.
Long time. How about that? So
Yeah.
would you say you do 10 shows a year,
At least, yeah.
20 shows a year?
She's got one coming up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So maybe
Well, since last year, everything was shut down, so
Last
it
year,
would be on
everything was
Zoom
shut.
and everything, yeah.
So here's my question. You've been doing this for 30 years, and every year you probably do more shows. Would you say your first show or the last show you did had a higher quality and audience response? Which one was more effective?
Definitely the last show.
Why?
Well, actually, probably not, because the last show has been on Zoom.
Oh,
Yeah, so we've had to learn to interact through Zoom.
okay.
And my first show was live.
First show was live, so that
Yeah.
was a little better audience
Yeah, but I
participation.
mean, I understand.
Let's say your
what you're
last
asking.
audience, you get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Here's my point. Get at bats,
Mhm.
okay? Do more than one.
Mhm.
So Tammy's first one was not great, and Tammy didn't want to do it again.
Mm.
But that's who Tammy is. She doesn't like those things anyway. But here's my point. Try enough of them to get good,
Mhm.
okay? And don't expect your first solo to be your
Right.
best solo, okay?
Mhm.
But learn enough that where you can be competent, and then you can get skilled as you do it over time.
Mhm.
And you'll learn something every time. Just go learn. Try things, do things. You'll learn and get better every time you do it, okay?
Todd, you give a lot of great stats. Is there, I know you probably gather them from a lot of places, but is there a few go-tos that you can tell us?
So a lot of the stats today came from NAR, and you can go to the website, you can read the papers. Sometimes I'll read the papers in the wintertime. We have time to do that sometimes in November, December, January. I go to classes. I depend on a lot of other people for my stats. So I go to open house classes.
Keller Williams offers online courses that you can take. So I took a class about open houses, and it was like 12 weeks long, and we met once a week for 2 hours.
Really? How's there that much to share?
An agent out of Washington State, Seattle, I think it is. He moved to Seattle from the East Coast. He knew literally 0 people in town. That he was a real estate agent, and he had to figure out how to way to feed his wife and kids. Right. So he said he went to work on open houses because that was the quickest way to meet people that were ready to transact. And he made it through 6 months and started getting transactions. So Chris Suarez is his name. So he studied open houses as a lead generation mechanism for his team. And then he went on to build a team, but it's a requirement on his team that you host 2 houses weekly, open house, minimum of 2 hours, because everybody does lead generation, right? And buyer's agent, one of the best ways they can lead generate for business is to host an open house, as well as listings, right? Because we host open houses to get listings, we host open houses to get buyers.
That was
Those
a
are
big
things
reveal
happen.
for me today, by the way. I didn't think that I'd get a listing out of it. That
You
was
certainly
like-
can.
Of course, yeah.
I have, and you can.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
When is your next class?
I don't know. They ask me from time to time.
Great job.
Thank you. You're welcome. Let's do it again.
Yeah, I was discouraged because I was late. I was gonna be late and I started not to come. I'm glad I pressed my way.
I'm glad you did too. Thank you for being here today. I hope it added some value to your business.
Absolutely, yes.
Anytime I've ever thought it was too late to come to something here, but then decided to go anyway, I was always glad.
Oh, yeah.
Todd, do you, Todd, have a team or are you a sole operator?
So I do sort of have a team right now. I have some remote contract to close that works for me, and I'm in the process of hiring an executive assistant.
Yeah.
And I had somebody hired, and unfortunately they had a medical incident, and so they haven't been able to continue. So that search is ongoing right now.
So if you are looking for someone to do open houses for you, I'm not
Yeah.
going to for the Clark team anymore. I'm gonna give you my card.
Okay, you're welcome. So we can try that.
And one
sometime.
reason I think that'd be especially, I'd like to do that, because after this last one, I was also like, I don't know if I'm doing open houses again, but after today, I definitely will. I
Okay.
definitely will try, but I think you'd be a great coach about it too. If I was like, oh, what about this? If I had follow-up questions. So,
Fair enough.
One of
Yeah.
them,
here's my good one.
they ended
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Julianne.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
both sides.
So we can probably work that out sometime.
Yeah, I mean, you
I don't
convince
have any-
me on Saturday. I usually take off Saturday, Sundays, but that means I have plenty of time to do an open house. You know, I could at least do that. So
Well, take time off, have your off time
Yeah.
every week, whatever that is. And that's great,
Yeah.
Sunday. So host your open houses on Saturday. There's
Yeah.
plenty of time to do that over the weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Host-
that's good.
host yours then.
Absolutely.
Kind of went back to doing a lot of like introduction training, kind of build up the bottom.
Yes.
Especially last year. It was kind of a weird year for us.
Yeah.
But that was kind of my less active year in a while.
So they're
So
great
it's like
generation source.
jumping back into it.
That's awesome. I didn't know, I thought you were fresh like me.
Yeah.
Hey, Bill, it's Julianne.
Well, I like to, like I'm keeping that like fresh mind.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, no rush. I can even go get lunch first and then come, or I can come to you first.
Class, you know.
So give me a scenario. What do you-
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Footing you.
Okay, bye.
Definitely.
Oh, shadow someone for an open house.
I feel like I'll keep doing it until like
So.
Right, exactly, yeah.
What's his last name?
Okay, so let's
Rocket
do-
over here. Could be
I need
Jackson,
to
I
look
forget
for
his
an
last
open
name.
house to do.
Yeah, that's the other thing is
Armagon,
like,
real big.
like I said, like working nights, but I finally said,
Has some
don't
listings,
schedule me
and he
Sundays
also does
anymore.
open houses.
So now I've got
I
no
think he
excuse
would
to
probably
do
do
one
one
every Saturday.
Oh, okay.
That's my plan with the.
And I just try to think about what are the questions that I would ask. And then
So you haven't done any
try
open
it.
houses?
I haven't
Basically, you
done
want to know
any.
who they are. You want to know, are they ready to buy? What's their timeline?
I've done another one for my sister
Are they
when I
working
sold
for
her
an
house.
agent?
Hey, Mom, I'm gonna place an order at Aladdin's over here for lunch. Would you like a chicken shawarma or something a little different?
And I think
They-
one other thing
That's the thing, see, I'm like.
Well, so of the, they
Yeah,
also
me
have
too.
salads,
So you can tell
different
me this
salads,
stuff all
but
day,
of the
until
rolled
I actually
pitas, which is sort of like
applying it,
the shawarma,
it's
they
gonna
have
be
a
hard
few
to
different
say.
chicken
Yeah.
options. There's the chicken
That's
shawarma
experienced a
roll,
little
which
bit
has the
of the
tahini
house.
lemon dressing.
I like
And then
making
there's the
mistakes,
chicken
but
Dijon
I don't wanna make a
roll, which
mistake
has
that
a honey
someone's like,
Dijon
"Ah,
dressing.
you know, I mean, like-
And then there's the chicken salad roll, which
Yeah,
has
so-
lightly fried almonds,
I'm
melted
trying to learn. as
cheddar,
much as I
and a
can.
chicken salad. So which of those, or chicken curry,
Cause this
which
is a
has
lot.
some
It's
honey
over-
Dijon, sweet peas,
All right,
thank
thanks,
you.
Todd.
it's a lot
Which
for
of
me.
those sound good to you? Mom? I can't hear you, you must have muted the phone.
So you're the one that's on the.
Hello,
PC
hello?
call every morning?
Yes.
Oh, okay, you're the one with the headset.
Can't hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, no.
Okay, you have an auto dialer?
No, that was just, sometimes my wife.
Which of those sound good to you?
Give it the same offer, so.
The first one was the chicken shawarma, just the most basic with the lemon tahini,
I
right?
think the other best is coming in today.
Yeah,
She talking about food.
but David, right? Yeah.
Yep. So you said.
It has tomato, onion, and tahini lemon dressing. I was just telling you the different
I've been like part-time
features.
for about 4 years, been doing mostly like friends and family kind of transactions, and I'm trying to do.
Well, and I'm sure they're all good. So I'll get that one and ask them to add some cucumber. And I think you said you'd like some grape
Yeah.
leaves also.
Sold a couple, but it's.
Yeah, I think they
Kind
do.
of had an inactive. year
All
last year,
right,
so
and then I'm gonna pick up my tennis
yeah,
racket,
I'm
then I'll be
kinda
home.
looking at it as,
Love ya.
Start from the beginning, go through the training, and a lot of it, like repetition.
Yeah, I saw that. Actually, it doesn't, yeah, they do have grape leaves, small. Okay, bye, Mom.
Kind of refreshing.
Yeah, exactly.
Julie.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'll see you later.
What's your command?
See you tomorrow.
Oh, I've had to get help all along the way, but the most helpful thing is just YouTube. Because all of, I am, and all of the things you're gonna need, they can do classes all day long, but until you need it, you're not dialed in a way to receive it, you know,
Yeah,
so you need that
yeah.
context.
Yeah.
So, and they'll a lot of times just point you back to the
Can you
video.
just Getting like information.
Yeah,
for the
so I
low
just,
now?
I'll just do like, I'll go to YouTube and then let's say I wanna type in the thing I was talking about here, which was a landing page, because I made that a
Ah,
couple times
So
now.
did you put
I'll
command?
say,
on
I
it?
think so, let's see, like KW command, create landing page.
Got you.
And if you want to go through it in a systematic way, the most helpful person is probably going to show up on here is Marty Miller. And he has, see how this says 3.0? Now he has 5.0, it might even be 6.0, the 66-day challenge. So he keeps revising it and now he has more updates. This is a year ago, now he has 5.0. But one of his old videos will come up. Just make sure, try to get the most recent one because they've been changing command a lot. So what he does, he'll show you, he'll start from the applets on the side and they might have changed since he did that a little bit. Usually I can figure it out or I'll go back and I'll look for a more recent video. I'll be like 2021. And then let's see if someone different pops up. Yeah, and this guy Jay is good too. Jay, oh, he's not one of the top ones, but I'll just use, you know, this one would be fine. And it's only a few minutes long, I think. Yeah, so I'll go through step by step. Yeah. Yeah, so as soon as I realize there's something I want to do, someone's been talking about something, I'll go to YouTube and type that in and just search it.
Got you.
That's the best way to learn it, yeah.
Which ones are good and which
And I
ones
went to the command crash course, which they offer every 2 weeks here, and that's okay.
I know, I gotta go back.
Yeah, you have to go a couple times. It's,
Yeah,
it's,
I
it's
gotta
more
go back.
Q and A.
Yeah,
And
I
since
gotta
we don't
go
even
back.
know what we don't know.
Yeah, it's like.
So, but I would
like,
say.
Okay, I'm glad you're saying that. 'Cause
For sure, for sure. It's a lot of self-training you have to do. And the resources are there, you just gotta find them. But I'd say if you wanna systematically be learning stuff and not just, this is also available to you to Google it, is do that 66-day challenge. Just type in Marty Miller,
I'm gonna take a picture of what it looks like.
yeah, 66-day challenge. And you can see, okay, he did 5.0, so if you just type in that into the search and then sign up for that, and everything he says there is gonna be helpful. That's how I created, I wish I had it with me to show you. I created my promotional material to put on Facebook for my property. I just made it look real nice. You can create ads through command. You can do so much. So this is a good one to start training with and just do one a
Let me
day.
see your Facebook page.
Okay, yeah, I'll show you this last house that just
So do you
closed
have somebody
yesterday.
help you? You just on your own, right?
Mm-hmm. This
So
one I
who do you
created.
go to?
I created this on Michael Lewis Suite. Well, you're in the productivity group if you're new, right?
Yeah,
So have they given you the schedule, the calendar?
no.
You're brand new, aren't
Yeah,
you?
brand
Like
new,
I
yeah.
also came on my first day to a class.
Mhm.
Okay, so this is part of the productivity team plan. I wish you'd been here when Jennifer was here. Were you here when she was here? She's our interim coach. She's the one sitting on that back row for a while.
Okay,
She's the interim coach.
Yeah,
Our
really?
coach left, and so they're trying to find someone to replace her. Yeah, so it's a little bit different right now,
Yeah, so a person,
but this, wait, where's my groups? Groups, okay, over here. This is a page that you should be on. We're all on it if we're on the
Gotcha.
productivity.
got you.
And then here is the schedule, which
Okay.
this is really what the productivity
Got you.
10% goes towards is these offerings. So this is gonna be the class which we are just in, that's open to us.
Mhm.
Every morning, 8:30, I get on a 30-minute call with them. And then they have Q&A every day from 12 to 11, or I'm sorry, 11 to 12. And then we have a group training either
Okay.
Tuesday or for dual career
Every
Thursday.
day. So
Yeah.
I probably need to go talk to,
I didn't know about it either for like my first 3 weeks.
I know, how did you find out?
Eventually I called Jessica and I was like, I thought I was gonna be getting more training. And she's like, you're not showing up to the huddles. I was like, what huddles? Jeremy is also helping in the interim while we don't have a coach. So I think